A very good morning to you. It's a Tuesday. Of course, you're welcome to Rise and Shine Daily. Another day for us to discuss very topical issues live here on Spectrum Television. My name is Janice Cobham, and once again, welcome to Rise and Shine.
Good morning, Africa. Good morning, Nigeria. Good morning, Akwa Ibom State. It's a beautiful, rainy Tuesday morning to rise and shine wherever you are. Of course, whether it's raining or not, you have to shine mentally and otherwise. My name is Uyai Aneka, and I am delighted to be alive and here doing this with you this morning. Of course, I will not forget to remind you to follow us across all social media platforms because, for instance, as this rain is buzzing, you should have us on your tab everywhere you go.
Of course, yes. Good morning.
Good morning, Janice.
Yeah, another day on set, but today seems to be like, I don't know if the gods just decided to open up the heavens and, let the rains down.
It's a whole torrent.
Yes, yeah, it's coming down in large torrents. Yeah. I don't know how the weather is where you are, but then again, this is just always on Rise and Shine saying you just have to be careful. Yeah. If the rains are coming down too much, please look for somewhere and just stick and not go around. Of course, we've seen serious submerging of houses and properties at the Lugbe axis in Abuja, and it was quite a terrible one too. So let's just be careful. If the rains are coming down too much, just let's try and stay safe this period. Of course, the meteorological department also has given out warnings. The last time we talked about this, it was warnings to churches and other government parastatals, like let's get prepared for some kind of very heavy downpour, and try to see how we can mitigate those factors, and all of that. But it's a good thing that the rain is doing what it is supposed to do. But then again, we just have to do what so the waters can pass when they need to pass. And generally, let's just stay safe. Let's just stay safe and be good in good condition.
In good condition is very important, and then still in the spirit of make sure that you are in good condition. Wednesday and Thursday have been declared. I hope I got that right. Yeah, Wednesday and Thursday have been declared public holidays by the federal government, so we can join our Muslim faithful to celebrate this year's Eid al-Kabir celebrations. And I know someone was asking me yesterday, is this the Ram celebration? And I was like, I've seen a couple of my Muslim friends talking about how Ram is expensive, so I think this must be the Ram celebration.
Yes,
and
Ram
and then I think it was Katsina State, yes, that was warning that citizens should not go out borrowing to buy Ram. So it's definitely the Ram's
celebration.
Yeah, so if you have Ram around, let's share in your joy in this season. But of course, the federal government has said that Wednesday, Thursday will be observed as public holidays to give Muslim faithfuls and the rest of us in the country an opportunity to celebrate this season with them. We've seen the likes of some northern states even given an entire week off so that children can get back home and celebrate with their parents until the 2nd of July. And we hope all our Muslim brothers and sisters, we wish them all the best in this season.
I think that's what the government will always ask for. Let's see how we pray for the unity of the country. Let's come together both as Christians and as Muslims and cohabitate, because Nigeria, one, is just about the only country that we have. So let us not be divided along ethnic lines. I know that I have Muslim friends that will tell you that, okay, so all of the killings that, are happening up north, the banditry, the Boko Haram and all of that has nothing, totally nothing to do with Islamic, religion. So it's just people, that are acting out of their own impulsion. Happy celebrations as we even start our celebrations tomorrow. We are going to be looking for our Muslim friends actually, to share in the eating of the ram, because when it is Christmas, they actually do come to eat our chicken and our goat meat and everything. So we are going to join our Muslim brothers to also eat the RAM as well. But again, there's something about the the public holiday that some Nigerians have picked on. The reason why it has to be Wednesday and Thursday, we are normally very familiar with the Thursday, Friday, so that it just goes like Thursday. So whatever you're doing, you have to be back at work on Friday.
It just spells, by now we'd have started seeing, social media posts like, oh, long weekend.
Yeah, long weekend. What do I do for the weekend and all of
that?
It's
like long midweek.
Yes.
Yeah, long midweek. It's time to fall back with family, friends and loved ones. People are going to be traveling. Let's not even forget that the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, that whole, construction that is going on there has been put on hold so that travelers will be able to have easy access to use the goes smoothly as planned at this time.
And then again, you know that the DSS also raised an alarm of insecurity or some kind of what do you call it now, some kinds of in case of any eventuality to make sure that yes, everybody is safe during the Eid al-Kabir celebration. But
all lives are important.
Yes, all lives are important. At this moment, we just put a post to that. Happy holidays, of course, when the holiday starts. And remember also that it's just 2 days, Wednesday and Thursday. Friday, you're back at work. Let's look at our major story for this morning right now. It's one story that is buzzing everywhere. Nigerians having different sides to this particular one. Of course, yesterday we saw the retired Assistant Inspector General Security Advisor, NSA. He's taking over Babagana Mungono, who was the then National Security Advisor. And of course, he has said a lot of things. There's been a lot of congratulatory message pouring in on this particular initiative. Lots of Nigerians saying that, of course, the president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has done the right thing to put a square peg in a square hole at this moment. But he's also saying that the work is for Nigeria. I'm trying to quote him now, that the work is for Nigerians and he intends to continue with what he has been doing. Like, he's giving Nigerians that assurance that there will be stability in the country. We will secure our country and we will make Nigeria peaceful, because we believe that the time has come for this country to enjoy peace, restore order and the rule of law, just like any other country in the world. But I know that when the president came up with this name, Nuhu Ribadu, to become the National Security Advisor, one major trail to this conversation has been that in the first time in the history of Nigeria, in fact since 1999, where the country returns to democracy, this is the first time we are having a non-military man man this particular position. Of course, we know that Nuhu Ribadu is coming from the police sector now, but all the while it has been the military, somebody with a military background that has always been, the National Security Advisor.
As part of the conversations, around Ribadu's appointment as the NSA chief, we also see that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu did not tilt, to all of the politics that is involved with naming, security advisors or people in key positions, especially where security is involved. And the precedent of Ribadu makes him such that there's an expectation of strength. He's said to have a backbone for discipline and to just read out bad eggs at a double level that Nigerians are expecting to see with NSA. Let's not even forget that the entire security architecture has been overhauled. So with him at the helms of affairs at that level, at the NSA, we hope to see a lot of reforms and policies. And part of the conversation that has rigged our nation, or even the artillery and equipment necessary, to a very large extent we have these things, but implementing, utilizing information and getting the work done has always been the question. Where is the willpower of the government? Now let us see, with the new hands on the saddle, how this conversation
able to maneuver the murky waters of insecurity in this country. But then again, like I said, the congratulations have started pouring in. We'll just take some tweets now and see what Nigerians are saying about this particular appointment of Nuhu Ribadu. And of course, we saw him yesterday taking over and assuming office for the...
Okay, so this is from Comrade Moore. He says Nuhu Ribadu working as NSA and looking at all the corrupt leaders he fought during OBJ, now occupying the juiciest positions in government. Nigeria must be a wild place. Okay, this is some wild perspective also. Okay, Adamu Garba says Nigeria's National Security Advisor Malam Nuhu Ribadu, incorruptible, efficient and intelligent man with a strong work ethic, that the corruption that marred our security system is now over, inshallah, an assurance that Nigeria will surely be secured. Okay, more faith being bestowed on the person of Nuhu Ribadu as NSA chief. Okay, do we have more tweets? Let's see what more Nigerians are saying. Of course, Ribadu himself has vowed to deepen the security stability of the country. Okay, this is Ben Murray Bruce, and he says, it is with great honor and delight that I celebrate the appointment of my good friend Malam Nuhu Ribadu as Nigeria's National Security Advisor, NSA. A true embodiment of strength and valor. A Superman is now in charge. His unparalleled intelligence, deep-rooted patriotism, and unwavering commitment to the prosperity of a beloved nation is indeed a statement to the caliber of leadership he brings. Now, Nigerians can go and sleep at night. Nigerians and Nigeria will be safe. This is such great I don't know, the accolades are massive. It builds an expectation in the minds of Nigerians, especially for people that, you know, may not have had prior information and history. They do not know Nuhu Ribadu's, you know, history in the AFCC. Now, a lot of persons that have worked with him are coming to say this is one of the best choices that the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has made. Like he said, putting the proper fixture in the proper place, you know, and all of that. So we expect a lot of, you know, reforms. Like Ben Murray Bruce is saying now, he's saying Nigerians can go to sleep and Nigeria will be safe.
Now, let's even take it back to the very first tweet you read. It says, Nuhu Ribadu working as NSA, looking at all the corrupt leaders he fought during Obasanjo, now occupying the juiciest positions in government. Nigeria must be a wild place. Now, I think when I saw this tweet, I had to like do a little bit of research back, and I found out that the man Nuhu Ribadu also fought the present President Bola Ahmed Tinubu at some point in time, calling him a corrupt person. I think when he was governor of Lagos State, calling him a corrupt person. And when you look at it, and even the likes of Ojo Okalu, when you look at it today, you find out that these same people that were fought because of corruption, that was when Nuhu Ribadu was the EFCC chairman at the time. These same persons that he fought for corruption charges are the same people that he's working for.
Colleagues.
Do you get? And the same Tinubu that he called a thief one time or the other is the same person he's working for now as the National Security Advisor. So it puts us in this position in some kind of a precarious situation, and somehow is also more like a little bit of dents to the image of the man Nuhu Ribadu. So some Nigerians can say all that the good things they are saying about him, and you know, the capacity and everything that he exuded, you know, during his time as EFCC boss. But what do we say at this point in time where he is working for the same people that he accused of corruption charges?
I think what we'll look at is the office versus the person, because when he was EFCC boss, he carried out his duties as EFCC boss. Now, investigations and convictions were not the duties of Nuhu Ribadu. Did he push for investigations? Yes. Did he call them out? Yes. But did the final verdict of, you know, convicting these persons lie on Nuhu Ribadu's table? We all would say no. We doubt that. So we cannot come around and question his character of service because he's now currently working. Now, that was as EFCC boss. Now he is the NSA chief. Now, these two offices are different, and I think it's just dependent on office, not the person of Nuhu Ribadu here. He's been called by the federal government, and he's serving first of all Nigerians, not just President Bola Ahmed Tinubu or every other person that he had fought in time past. So you can say he has a greater call to nationhood than he has a call to verifying whether or not he's incorruptible. So I think service to nationhood is more important. I mean, Ben Murray Bruce has said this morning that he's, a very patriotic citizen. So patriotism definitely stands over every other accusation people are trying to raise, really.
Okay, I think we'll just leave that story at that and then look at our very next major story for this morning. President Bola Tinubu has done something very remarkable and commendable, but trust Nigerians to always pick holes in some of the things that he does. Of course, yesterday we saw that the president had renamed some federal airports after several prominent Nigerians, and of course, the remaining airports was announced, or rather the renaming of the airport was announced in a memo released by the Federal Ministry of Aviation dated June 1, 2023 and signed by Mrs. Joke Olatunji for the Director of Airport Operations yesterday. Now, so many airports has been renamed. We have the Akure Airport being renamed as Olumuyiwa Bernard Aliyu. We have the Benin Airport as Oba Akenzua II. We have the Dutse Airport as Muhammad Nuhu Sanusi Airport. We have Ebonyi Airport as Chuba Wilberforce Okadibu Airport. The Gombe Airport is renamed Brigadier Zakari Maimalari. Okay. And the Ibadan Airport is Samuel Ladoke Akintola. Now, these are very prominent people. Of course, the Ilori Airport, General Tunde Idiagbon. We have the Kaduna Airport as Hassan Usman Kassina. We have the Maiduguri Airport as General Muhammadu Buhari. We have the Makurdi Airport as Joseph Suswan Taka. We have the Nasarawa Airport as Sheikh Usman Damfodio. We have the Mina Airport as Malam Abubakar Imam. We have the Usubi Airport as Alfred Jetta Spiff. We have the Port Harcourt Airport as Obafemi Jeremiah Awolowo. Okay, and of course the Yola Airport, it's named after Lamido Aliyu Mustafa. And those are it. Quite prominent people, I must say, people that we read back in history, and we are seeing them more like immortalized. Some still alive, some also have gone as well. But this is just a way for national unity and prominence.
Definitely a way for national unity and prominence. I think one of the best, the ones I liked the most was the Dutse Airport, named after the former president. That Dutse now. Okay, I'm missing it, but the airport that was named at the former president Muhammadu Buhari, I think that's Maiduguri. Maiduguri
yes,
Airport.
Maiduguri
Yes, that's
Airport,
the one I like
General
the best.
Muhammadu
Somehow
Buhari.
I just like it, and it just takes us. It takes us back to. It takes us back to immortalizing the efforts of these men in the country. One way or the other, yes, recognizing it. One way or the other, they've all made their contribution. And if you go back even into history, the likes of Obafemi Awolowo, the kinds of Ladoke, it's just more like digging up. Yes, just digging up history and putting it. Now, it forces the younger generation to ask, okay, who were these men in Nigerian history? Yes, that that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is renaming airports, in their honor. But this is a good one. I'm trying to see. I did not see an Olusegun Obasanjo naming, but there are more airports coming in time to come. But this is good. This is good. Whatever the names were, it just immortalizing greatness is also important. A way to put a tag on history.
Yeah, but just some reactions now from what Nigerians are saying. It says despite a good being a good gesture, it's so shameful that Mr. President didn't find any woman worthy to be of this, be it past or present, heroes. So the name of the late Dora
Akunyili,
Akunyili
yes,
has been mentioned at this moment. Dora, we know what Dora, the late Dora Akunyili, did when she was NAFDAC boss.
yes.
And I think that, to a large extent, she is deserving as a posthumous honor of this particular renaming. And then another one says, of course, 230 million Nigerians, not a single woman's name for any of the airports. Then this one says, they say Tinubu, they work, but now only sign. Okay, signing of memorandums that we are saying, that's off. Then another person says, Dora Akunyili deserves this. Now, this one says, I pity students studying history. Every 8 years now, change of airport. After every 8 years, every president that comes wants to change the name of something. Then what about people that will be studying history? What will they, be saying at this moment? What would they be learning at this moment,
And these are things we also saw the former president do in his time, renaming some of these federal monuments. So that is a very strong argument. But then let's go back to the sentiment of Nigerians saying, so you did not see any woman that was worthy of this. And when you bring up the name of the late Dora Akunyili, it's very nostalgic. And you can say that the sentiment is widespread because I think just last week or thereabout, her posthumous birthday was being celebrated, and everyone, was just talking about the gains. I remember as a young girl, everybody talked about Idora Akunyili. She was like, if she placed her feet on a place, heads just went rolling. And Nigerians are in the right to say that we have not done a holistic, what would I call it, immortalizing of these features. But then again, an excuse can be raised. We still have airports, and we also still have monuments, more things that can be named. It also just calls the attention of the federal government. We want a balance. Balance of gender, balance of religion, balance of ethnicity in whatever things the federal government is doing.
True.
But this one is a big snag, and collectively as Nigerians, we agree.
Now, another side to this story is it the renaming of airports? Is it what is important when you even look back at the deplorable state of the aviation sector?
When you even look back at the deplorable state of some of the airports that have been
that's what that you can revamp the aviation sector and revamp these airports. Is one thing to rename, is one thing for these airports to represent the people that they are being renamed after.
But one can also say it's a step at a time and a step in the right direction. Let's even start by saying, okay, we recognize the things you did, and then we can now bring the question of, okay, what is lacking. Of course, the former aviation sector boss Hadi Sirika, more Nigerians are gawning. He should be called in for questioning. A lot of money spent in ways it shouldn't be spent. I mean, some of those funds would have been used to rehabilitate some of these airports. But first of all, we agree that this is nice. This is a commendable move by the president. But then again, there's a problem with the fact that we do not see any women being honored, and there are women in history.
Of course,
let's not even forget, if we even go back in history, I mean, now
what about Okonjo Iweala? That is representing Nigeria in the right way.
You may say that Okonjo, okay, but Muhammadu Buhari is still alive.
Yes,
we have valid arguments.
Of course,
we have valid arguments. There are women that are representing us. This Obi Okwesili, so there are several women that should be named, and we do agree the federal government should revisit this.
Definitely. I think on a lighter note now, Hadi Sirika is saying that we should expect 30 more fleets coming in from Nigerian Air. Okay.
The first saga hasn't blown over. All right.
Let's just take a breather now and join Mary Joseph for standing by for the news briefing. When we come back, of course, we have Daily Spotlight for you. And of course, we'll also be joining Dr. Peter Ogudoro, who will be joining us from Lagos this morning to talk about the student loan and what he thinks, or rather his perspective towards this. To stay with us and don't move a muscle.
clear. Our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the Constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigerian police force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian police force.
No, my lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Hebrew.
He did not.
My lord, the matters council is leading the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord, but we can't be talking about cases which are in court.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord. These cases are in court, my lord. I'm just reminding your lordship.
My lord, sorry, my lord, I think I'll be in cross-examination.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.
Every society is premised on the quality
government, General,
voting for Spectrum TV to recover 40 lives in counting.
A very good morning to you and welcome to your morning news briefing Spectrum live from Uyo. I am Mary Joseph. We begin the news brief with a report that President Bola Tinubu, who has said his administration would work closely with the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency (NDLEA) and its international partners to fight the menace of drug abuse. He urged stakeholders to take a people-centered approach in addressing drug addiction, saying addicts are also humans who deserve understanding and support to recover from the downward path of drugs. Away from that, Vice President Kashim Shettima says President Bola Tinubu's led administration plans to create 1 million jobs in digital world. Shettima stated this when he received a delegation from the Republic of Korea led by the Special Envoy to the President, Jang Song-min, at the Presidential Villa. The Vice President also used the opportunity to reaffirm Nigeria's commitment to strengthening relations with the Republic of Korea, especially in promoting trade, technology transfer, and maintaining global peace. Back here, Akwa Ibom State Governor Pastor Moino has instituted a 100 million naira education intervention fund to assist the physically challenged students of Akwa Ibom origin and other disabled students residing in the state and studying in public tertiary institutions across the state. The state governor announced this when he granted audience to the University of Uyo chapter of the National Association of Students with Disabilities, led by the President, Comrade Emmanuel Wisdom, who were on a courtesy visit to the governor at the government house Uyo. Act of the Wenger mercenary group's aborted march against Moscow and stressed his effort to maintain Western unity on Ukraine. Biden stressed, however, that he and key Western allies were in close touch and that he had also told Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky that US support will remain strong. And finally, in sport, Aqua United have resumed training ahead of the 2023-2024 Nigeria Premier League season. Reports say that the Promise Keepers will embark on a pre-season training program at Uyo Township Stadium. 20 players took part in the training session led by assistant coach Effiong Moses alongside all the coaching staff of the team. Aqua United are without a manager following the expiration of Ayodeji Ayeni's contract with the club. Former Rivers United assistant coach Fatai Osho is the favourite to take over at the club. We'll have details of this and more in our news at 12. I am Mary Joseph. Let's back to Rise and Shine, where we have Janice and Uyai on standby. Do have a wonderful morning.
Government, General,
voting for Spectrum TV to recover 40 lives in counting.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Rise and Shine, and we're coming to you live from Uyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom State, Nigeria. Mary Joseph just gave us tidbits of global news, and before we went on that, we've looked at some stories already on Rise and Shine. The fact that the federal government has declared Wednesday and Thursday as public holidays in commemoration of this year's Eid al-Kabir celebrations. We also saw the fact that Nuhu Ribadu has assumed office as National Security Advisor, and a lot of encomiums and accolades have poured in, and the expectations are very high on the part of Nigerians for what the security architecture will look like under his leadership. We also saw the fact that the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu renamed some airports in the country. At this point, we move straight up to our daily spotlight, where we bring you information from the front pages of our national dailies.
Very interesting stories on the front pages of our national daily this morning. We start with Daily Sun. This particular story, the big story on Daily Sun, I saw it yesterday and it was laughable. But then again, it's a must read actually. Let's find out the reason why, the ex-president or former president decided to do what he decided to do for fuel subsidy. Anyways, Daily Sun, the big story says Buhari's ex-aide reveals fuel subsidy secret, and the writer here says ex-president delayed its removal to help APC win presidential election. You have that story on page 6. Federal government warns security agencies against use of torture, cruel treatment of detainees. Page 28 is where you can find that story from. Moving forward, government suspends Lagos-Ibadan Expressway construction work to ease movement. Page 29 is where you get that story from. Anti-weapons proliferation agency raises the alarm over false outfits in Northeast. You can get that story on page 4. Shake up as NAF appoints new branch chiefs, AOCs and spokesman, others. Abia, OT sets up panel for recovery of government funds. Page 29 is where you get that story from. Eid al-Kabir, passengers pay over 150,000 naira for economy seats. Page 2 is where you get that story from. And of course, we also have Tinubu will secure every inch of Nigeria, says Ribadu. A promise he's giving to Nigerians as he assumes office as the national security advisor to the president. Enugu targets $2 billion in diaspora and investment forum. You can get that story on page 29. And the last story here for this morning is NIA ex-DG fights back, open cans of worms. Page 6 is where you get details of that story. And that's all on Daily Sun.
Moving from Daily Sun, we go now to the Nation newspaper. And the big story on the Nation says discourse awaits NERC's nod to increase electricity tariffs. Distribution firms backtrack on hike notification. Review not justified, says you see, okay, that's great story. Distribution firms backtrack on hike notification. Very important. Okay, we also see here that 7 pilgrims died of psychological challenges, says NACON. You can find that story on page 2. Ex-aide, why Buhari didn't remove petrol subsidy, floats naira. Page 5 is where you can find details of that particular story. We also see here Ibadan skit maker remanded in prison. Automatic job for LASU's best graduate. Pages 28 and page 3 is where you can find details of those stories. Floating of naira in order, says Idika Kalu. Petrol subsidy no longer desirable. Ribadu, CDS, IG will secure Nigeria. We also see here work halted on Lagos Ibadan Road. Government appeals 5 billion naira Ararure judgment. Yes, that's also a really big story, and that's all that we have here. That's all we have here. Of course, the reiterating federal government's declaration of tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday holidays for Eid al-Kabir. Details page 2, and that's all we have this morning on the Nation newspaper.
Let's look at the Punch newspaper. The Punch newspaper, the big story here says PDP Senate Minority Leader PDP Atiku set to clash with G5 over Tambuwal. And then you have the writer as Atiku, a party man, will back PDP choice, says aid as minority leader emerges July 4. A G5 backing Jarigbe. Autumn's aid insists lawmakers want PDP on Sokoto ex-governor. And moving forward, Buhari hands over 974 billion naira uncompleted road projects. Disco's backtrack on tariff hike awaits NEC approval. World Bank okays fresh $500 million loan for federal government. We also have customs CG decorated promises technology-driven operations. We also have that Salah, federal government declares holiday, Osun cancels free train ride. 7 passengers, Okada rider die in Oyo crashes. Tinubu returns today, may present ministerial list after Salah. I think that's one list a lot of Nigerians are waiting to see how he's going to use his office, to share the ministerial appointments across board.
Okay, moving on now from that, we look at Nigerian Tribune. Nigerian Tribune this morning, big story there, says subsidy removal would have cost APC 2023 elections. Buhari, page 15, says we didn't want to distract Tinubu Shetima. Okay, of course, indeed some kind of worms there. We also see here Lagos blue red lines to commence operations in August. Lagos blue red lines to commence operations in August. Page 3 is where you can find details. Salah, consumers lament high cost, scarcity of tomatoes and pepper. Page 30. Boat mishap, Marine Police locals recovered bodies of 3 missing students. Very sad story there. Page 26. We can also see here federal government declares tomorrow, Thursday, Eid al-Kabir holidays. Page 30. 7 died, 15 injured in Oyo Ogbomosho Road accident. Page 3. Abuja Electricity Distribution Company denies tariff hike. Page 6 is where you can find details. Alleged sexual exploitation, court remands kit maker Trinity, victim's parents in prison. Page 26 is where you can find details. We also have a picture story here. Kano residents protest further demolition of buildings. Government to rebuild demolished roundabout on city's outskirts. Page 26 is where you can find details of that story. Anti-money laundering. CBN directs banks to increase surveillance on politically exposed persons. Page 6. And that's all we have on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune.
I think that's all the stories we have this morning on our national dailies. Quite interesting stories. And I think big read as well, especially this particular story that talks about the fact that the former president of Nigeria, Muhammadu Buhari, now is saying that he did not push forward the subsidy removal because he needed APC and of course Tinubu and Shetima to win the elections.
Okay, so I have the Vanguard newspaper, and the Vanguard always has funny different stories. I'm seeing something here that says we are coming after you. NSCDC reads riot acts to oil thieves. Because the big story here says Forex challenge driving petrol price towards 581 naira per litre. First deliveries of 11 PLC and Dover, others to arrive mid-July. Marketers say logistics of bringing products complex. No fixed price of depots. Daft man. Okay. Of course, 10 drowned as boats capsized in Akwa Ibom waterways. That's the third in just a week. And this is calling for a lot of attention. Dakuku, Peter's side. Okay, we also have here, let me see one other story that we have not used. Okay, Tinubu wants stigma on drug use removed. Details on page 27. We also see here, okay, that's all that we have. 12 stockbroking firms blacklisted, sent out of stock market. Page 19 is where you want to find the details of that particular story, and that's all that is different here this morning. Boats capsizing in Akwa Ibom. That's going to be 3 in about 2 weeks already. That's dangerous.
Yeah.
Okay, 581 naira per liter forex challenge on petrol. A lot of changes, several things happening in the country. More like Nigerians finding a place to put their feet, exactly. But I think another of the story that stood out for me this morning was when we are seeing that the price hike with electricity tariff has been reneged on. It's very important. We can't keep grappling for everything at the same time, especially because we are looking at how poorly some of these areas even have electricity supply. So why do we now have price hike in what's the service we are not receiving?
Yes, and then looking at the Punch also, we saw that there's more like a power tussle right now. We've finished that of the Senate presidency and the Speaker of the House. We are beginning to see minority leaders, you know, from the People's Democratic Party, of course, jostle for that particular position.
Oh, yeah.
So it's more like for every position that, you know, that is there, there's always going to be some drag, some fights. Who is supposed to be there and who is not supposed to be there. But we see that the tussle right now is between the former Sokoto State Governor Aminu Tambuwal and of course Jarek Bey of Cross River State as well. We see that Autumn's aide right now is insisting on backing Jarek Bey, and of course Atiku, a party man, will back PDP's choice, says minority leaders, or rather says aide as minority leader emerges July 4. So we are looking forward to July 4, which is in a couple of days from now. We'll see who becomes the minority leader, you know, for the People's Democratic Party at the Senate.
That'll be something to look out for. More seats and more power tussle going on there. Okay, let's see which other story that we have. Okay, several things happening. Our roads need to be revisited, our waterways need to be revisited. Okay, Lagos blue red lines to commence operations in August. Of course, the commercial hub continues to be a trailblazer with a lot of things. This is a directive from the Central Bank of Nigeria asking surveillance to be increased on politically exposed persons. Remember, we had a conversation yesterday talking about the fact that the CBN is pushing for social media handles to be tallied as BVNs, with BVNs also, a move that they say is part of their ways to, you know, hamper, what do they call it now? Money laundering and the rest. But that's definitely all that we can look at this morning on the front pages of our national dailies.
Yeah, quite interesting read. So do well to pick up any copy of your national daily and go through it this morning. Quite interesting read for Nigerians today, and quite revealing, you know, stories as well. But at this point, we just take a short breather. We connect with our guest and we come back right on to the conversation. We're looking at student loan. Is Nigeria ready? This is the big question a lot of people are asking. And of course, the intricacies to this particular bill. We get to break it down this morning with Dr. Peter Agudoro, who is an educationist and will be joining us from Lagos this morning. Just stay with us.
Business exists only to meet the needs of the people. But there's an extra advantage if your product and services are pitched on a platform that gives you the added advantage over your competitors. For your desired return on investment and so much more, advertise on Spectrum Television, on StarTimes DTH Channel 421 and on free-to-air. with a frequency of 12733. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
Welcome back. Of course, Rise and Shine continues with our focus conversation this morning. And on June 12, actually, of course, the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu decided to bring back the student loan bill, which was pushed by the former Speaker of the House of Assembly, and talking about Femi Gbajabiamila. There's one bill that he pushed, I think, since 2019, and that bill was assented to under the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Now the bill, of course, granting students loans to qualitative education has, met with a lot of controversies, and a lot of people are asking many questions as to how this particular loan can also be repaid when you look at the number of students that are being churned out from our universities on daily and do not even have what to fall back on as a means of livelihood. But joining us this morning to give better perspective to this conversation is Dr. Peter Ogudoro. He holds a PhD in education with emphasis on access to higher education. He is also a career management and attitude change from the University of Readings in England, and leads the world's most vibrant teachers community of over 400,000 members called Nigerian Teachers. Dr. Ogudoro won Facebook's Community Accelerator in Education and empowers millions of people across the world with his uncommon knowledge. Good morning, Dr. Peter Ogudoro, and thank you so much for being a part of our show this morning.
It's my pleasure to join you. Good morning.
Good morning. And how is Lagos today? The rains really came down hard in the city of Uyo, so I don't know how Lagos is looking like this morning.
It's quite sunny this morning.
Oh.
You won't believe it's rainy season. It's very bright.
Okay. So we also have Uyai on set. Uyai.
Good morning, Dr. Ogudoro. Good to have you on the show this morning. Of that, a conversation we really need to have with you because of your perspective into education. But we saw the fact that the former House of Representatives Speaker, that was Femi Gbajabiamila, had pushed for the bill as a move to make sure that funding in education in the country is abated. Of course, on June 12th, which was Democracy Day, we saw the fact that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu assented to that particular bill and passed it into law. There's been back and forth thoughts about the right placement of this particular bill. which has now become law in the country. But overall, do you think that this is a wise move by the federal government at this time, looking at all the precedents in the education sector?
Well, it's not trying to obviously resolve the challenge of not being able to fund higher education in our country on a consistent basis, because that has been at the root of the incessant industrial action we have experienced in that sector over the years. So I give it to them. They most probably mean well, but the question is this the way to deal with the matter? Because you shouldn't forget that education is the bedrock of development for any country, and that education is a social good. And so when you begin to treat it as on a cash and carry basis, so you pay for it and pay adequately for it, you remove it from the category of a social good, which is not the regular product. And that's what they're trying to make it. So they are marketizing the higher education system, which is very unfortunate for us. Education is a social good, and the citizens, where countries are serious, should have it for free, really. And that way, you'll be able to get the citizens to get into a social contract that makes them realize that their country has given unto them, and they should give back unto their country. But the system we are trying to bring into place is a system that says you pay fully for your education. So if you pay fully for education, you certainly don't owe your country anything. And so the patriotism is which we haven't even had it's inadequate, quantity, is going to walk away completely, out of the door, and even again through the window. So they didn't choose this well, because again, if you look at the conditions, which we probably will probe further into as we continue with the conversation, you see that it's an impossible loan to get when you start telling us that you can't get it if the combined family income is above 41,000 naira in a month. 41,000 naira in a month is not by today's exchange rate. It's not up to $50. So if your family income is up to $50, you don't get the loan. So that means that nobody will get it, because the average Nigerian definitely should have up to 50,000 naira in a month. And 50,000 naira in a month can't even feed one child, not to talk about sending the child to school. So you are putting an impossible obstacle to remove the way of Nigerians to go to school. So I find it very unacceptable. And I think that it was not well chewed. It was not stated by lawyers who are trying to ensure that government doesn't spend any time on training our young people, and that's quite unfortunate.
Now, I know that some people have also argued that this can be reviewed, but the main bane now is the fact that the speed at which it was assented to this particular introduction of student loan makes it such a way that you begin to wonder if the scheme is even workable at all. Do you think that it can, when we come back to the drawing board, this can actually be reviewed?
Well, the process of making law anywhere in the world, especially in the developing world, is a very onerous, process. It's not something you do in a day. Once the president assents to the bill and you want to review it, you have to go back to the drawing board, and the people in the Ministry of Justice will have to do their job and send it probably back to the relevant committees work on, and then somebody presents it again on the floor of the House. And you have to get buy-in from what House of Assembly, House of Representatives, and the Senate. So that process is a long process. And again, for something that carries significant implications for the welfare of the average family in Nigeria, you also have to do public hearing. And now that we know that this is what they want to do, if they want to bring it back to the drawing board and they get to the point of public hearing, there will be overwhelming, opposition against it. Nigeria indeed can afford to fund the education of her citizens without asking anybody to pay a dime, because many countries in the world are doing that, really. Because I hear that they are making an effort to end oil theft. Maybe you didn't know the money they can recover from, they can make from ending oil debt or oil theft. If you use only 50% of it, really, well, you will be able to fund education at all levels, and everybody will be able to get good quality education. So if you are pushing seriously in the direction of ending oil theft, what do you want that to use that money for? And we also know that we have already ended oil subsidy. What are you going to use the money you're saving from that for? So if you are very smart as a government, as a leadership of the country, the smart thing to do is to use the money you are saving from oil subsidy and some of the money you are going to save from ending oil theft to fund the education of the citizens, because once you fix education, you will have the capacity to deal with all other problems that afflict the country. You need, for you to fix infrastructure, you need good quality people, good engineers.
Now, Dr. Ogudaro, sir, some people have actually argued that it's more like the president, or rather the federal government, should rather provide grants for these students rather than call this particular, monies as loan. Do you?
Yes, that's the point I'm making. So, if you really think that there are some people in the country who can fund their own education, then use the data you have to determine who those families are and ask them to pay. So you can, for example, say that any child who comes from a family where family income is up to 3 million in a year, then the child should pay for the education that you provide at the tertiary education level. But most Nigerians are not at that level because per capita income here is under $3,000. Okay, so over 80% of Nigerians do not have the capacity to pay the kind of money you want to start charging on the platform of this, loan scheme. Maybe people didn't know. You haven't had all the details. Really, especially the average person in the street. What they are trying to do ultimately is to fully marketize education, make you pay the commercial value of higher education. And so you are likely to find us in a situation where in September this year, universities, now that they are going to be empowered to charge fees as they deem it fit, so that they will be able to get the money they need for research and to pay salaries, to also equip laboratories. Universities are going to start asking for probably as much as $500,000 minimum from every child in the average university. And I tell you, the average Nigerian can't afford that. And so universities, in fact, we already have, in Edo State, they have already had fees to about 300,000, in a year. And when all public universities in Nigeria do this, that will encourage private universities to even double the fee they are charging now, which the average Nigerian cannot afford.
Sure.
And so we must be very careful about what we are doing. So what we want to achieve, what we are going to see happen at the end of the day, is that families are going to sit down and ask themselves the question: what then this matter for us? Does it make sense to spend so much money to get education that will not procure adequate dividends? Because there are no jobs, which people are going to move on to at the end of the day to convince themselves that the education, was a very profitable venture.
Okay, Dr. Goodero, there is a twist to this, because in the move to end brain drain in the health sector, part of the conversation we had, which was also a bill that was attempted to push at the House, was let medical students, and graduates serve in the country for 5 years before they can be granted their full licenses, or even before they can transit to other countries. And one of the clauses was because that their education was subsidized by the federal government. Does it mean that, giving room for this student loan, subsidization of education is absolutely taken out because it looks like there's a twist and turn that most Nigerians are not aware. Some of the things you've already said this morning. Does it mean that when the loan is introduced and students start subscribing to it, that the subsidization of education in the country has somehow been pulled off the table?
Well, I think the problem we have in this part of the world is that the people who enunciate public policies most of the time are not people who are well, trained and have the right knowledge and skills to play those roles. They don't choose these things well. They don't even understand what is at the root of the problems. When you say you want to deal with the problem of brain drain, why are people leaving their country? It's not because they don't love Nigeria, fundamentally speaking. It's because you are not giving them reason to stay, really. So you're a medical doctor and you are not receiving the kind of salary that will pay your rent in a year. Then if you go to school, medicine is a hard course to study. So you finish and you're looking forward to a good life. You're looking forward to liberating your family from poverty. And you just discover that by the time you finish, you can't even feed yourself, not to talk about helping anybody in your family, really. And then you don't have the equipment that should enable you to truly save lives. And so you are bound to leave. Now, even if you make a law and say nobody leaves after studying medicine, it's not going to be implementable. Because all I need to do if I study medicine and I want to leave because you are not treating me well is to apply for visa to go to the UK to visit a friend. And if I get there, I stay back. I'm not coming back to Nigeria. So I'm not under obligation to tell you where I'm traveling out of the country.
Yes, but doctor, what I'm even asking is this student loan, is it taking off the place of subsidization of education in the country? Because the conversation was we are subsidizing your education. You cannot leave the country without serving us back.
Yeah, they are saying that they don't want to subsidize education anymore.
Once they introduce the loan.
So government is going to hands off fully any financial assistance that is needed to make people get good education. That's the whole essence of this bill. So if you didn't know it now. So by the time government takes off its hands from funding education at tertiary level, definitely after you have paid your own bill to go to school, the government will have no right to tell you what to do with the knowledge and skills you have acquired. It's cash and carry. So you close to what you need to spend to get good quality education in the UK, Canada, Germany, and United States of America. Why do you want to stay in Nigeria that is not ready to provide you good quality education? Because even when the money starts coming, you don't produce the professors overnight. It takes time, really. So while you're trying to fix education, Nigerians are not going to wait for you to do that. Because these children who are writing NECO and WAEC exam now to be able to get their school certificate, they want good quality education because they are all exposed to what good life means. That's the question. Where should I spend my money? I spend it to go to a Nigerian university and the cost is high, or I take if it's going to cost so much here. The smart thing to do is to spend that money abroad. So brain drain will continue, and more Nigerians are going to live here to go abroad.
Some Nigerians are saying that the speed at which the federal government using assenting to way and of application of this particular loan students.
Repeat the last statement, man.
I said when we are looking at the way that students are supposed to apply for this particular.
One of the conditions for you to get the loan is that you have to get as so. The question is, in a public service 12, and Nigerians have access to such individuals. So they fine. Others who are very smart have been there for up to 10 years are going to see this and they ask them to pay for that service. And public servants who believe they are not well paid, and we know that the average civil servant in Nigeria is also not well paid. So this is going to be a way for them to make money. So at the end of the day, you are going to exploit ordinary Nigerians, and you know that the average child today going to university is going to be a first-generation graduate. So most families in Nigeria haven't been lifted up socially and economically, and you are now putting these speaking. We don't want to compete at global level.
Now, while some people are saying that, this policy is not carefully thought, over, and it's more like not citizen oriented, some also Nigerians are saying that, I'm going to quote somebody now, legal practitioner Victor Osifo. He describes it as a welcome development aimed at unlocking the poverty trap that has over the years pushed some persons out of school.
Well, the way to address this matter is to say that when you use only lawyers to formulate a policy that has a social implication, you run into problems, because lawyers are not the best people to do this type of job, really. And it has been something that has been of concern to me over education for families, for mental health of people, and we don't ask the people who are experts in these areas. Sociologists and psychologists were not involved in nonsense in this, and I think that our lawmakers really are not people who have received the training it takes to actually make the kind of laws that move Nigeria forward. In the advanced societies, senators and members of the House of Representatives, parliamentarians employ psychologists and sociologists to help them think carefully about the bills they want to present on the floor of the House before they start pushing, for them to be promulgated as laws. So this one certainly hasn't benefited from that. So the whole idea of trying to, save money for government and, stock of the world, why are we presenting ourselves as people who don't know anything? Whereas we have Nigerians in virtually every country in the world who are doing very well. It's just that, unfortunately, amateurs and charlatans are the ones who generally tend to find their way to government.
Now, Dr. Budoro, I would like to ask a question. This particular student loan is working in other climes. Now, aside from the fact that, the process for application and payment looks some kind of cumbersome, why do we think that Nigeria is not yet ready for this particular policy?
Yeah, what you may not know is that those who are borrowing this from America, America has discovered that the loans they have given to students over the years are loans that are difficult to recover. And that those loans are putting people in depression. Mental health challenges are afflicting people who borrowed money to go to university. In America, it takes over 10 years for you to be able, if you are really committed to paying back, for you to be able to return the money to the people who gave you money in America. And that is generating, very serious mental health, challenges for people who borrowed money to go to school in America. And so the people now saying they just they give loans in America. They haven't done research. The outstanding money that people have to pay, thinking about, as the Biden's government is already thinking about writing it off, especially for those who come from low-income families. In the UK, there's also a loan scheme, and if, of course, you give a fair idea of where I'm coming from in terms of my academic background. I trained in the UK. The UK has a loan scheme. Okay, so the average child borrows about £9,000 annually to go to school. So for a 3-year program, which is the general standard in the UK, for those who are seeking first degree, what you find is that you borrow $9,000 every year to go to school. But in the UK, you don't pay that money back until you're earning over £20,000. That's the standard there. But here we say you start paying back 2 years after finishing NYSC. That's not how it's done in the UK. The UK is saying, have you started earning enough money to be able to take care of your rent, to be able to feed well, to be able to take care of your health, to be able to take care of, your wife and probably a child or two? It's only after you have taken care of those your basic needs that the UK government will ask you to start paying back your loan. And they take it in small chunks.
In trenches.
So that you are not pushed into poverty that will make you have mental health challenges. So the people who go abroad and they just hear people do loan scheme in Britain, they do it in America. Have you done the research to find out if it's working and how actually they do it? This way you want is not how they do it in the advanced society. So be very careful about what you are trying to implement.
Yeah.
They don't know what's going on around the world.
Okay, because another side to this is the fact that it's not like Nigeria has not attempted the whole student loan thing before. So it's not even new to us, these kinds of things you're talking about, because in 1972 it was introduced, and you know, the batches of people who even got the loans were not able to pay back. The military governments came in 1993 and 1994 and tried to enact the same thing. They ran into the same hurdles until, you know, it was domesticated in 2004. So we are even saying, so far so good. We have tried and attempted this student loan before. What makes us think it's going to be different now? Because like you're saying, doctor, if we fall back on other loan schemes in the country, you're talking about even loans given to farmers, how many of these loans are recuperated when the time is due?
Recovery of the loans. How do we do that? I mean, we are even talking about a country where university churn out, you know, graduates every year
and
there
are
no
no
jobs.
Employment. So it's an unrealistic move by the federal government. And like you've clearly shown us this morning, there's a lot of loopholes that even most of the students do not know. So doctor, let's talk about, you know, give us a prism by which students should look into this loan thing, because some of them, like you're you know, enunciating this morning, are ill-informed about this loan. And from September, we are going to have a lot of children and young persons queuing up, yes, and trying to fill the forms to get student loans.
Yeah, so I also want to believe that the government is hearing what you guys are saying. They are not going to implement this one because it's dead on arrival. It's very unrealistic. No responsible government can implement this. It doesn't matter who started the process, because it's very, very unrealistic. We can't implement it because Nigerians don't have the money to pay. And you are saying we can lend you money to go to school, but the people who can borrow this money are people whose family income is not above $41,000. That is a laughable, you know, condition. I don't see how that is going to work. So overall, my hope is that the people. Unfortunately, again, I'm you know, when I heard that they signed this into this and they are already promoting it, the question is, why didn't they wait to form a cabinet so that you have a minister of education who can help them, you know, with hopefully his or her expert knowledge to go through this properly and then advise government before you put your pen on paper? Why the rush? Why of all I hear that the former president didn't even assent to up to 20% of all the bills that, you know, were presented to him by the parliament. Why single this one out for this kind of rush? So I don't know. Maybe there's a hidden agenda that nobody has told us, really. So what I'm saying in effect is that if we take the idea of ending oil theft seriously and we achieve it, half of the money we save from that will be enough to fund higher education in this country. Is the truth. Look into how much we're losing there. For a few years, we have lost probably over 10 trillion naira to tips. If we plug that, we don't need that we don't need that much to help higher education. We should carry that money to higher education, because these are the people who are going to come up with ideas that will fix our roads, that will fix our security, that will fix, conflicts that we have all over the place, and that will fix our telephone, our everything. It's education that will fix all of that. You need good quality thinkers. At the moment, can't you see the law that you are talking about? This law does not reflect quality thinking, and this has a lot to do with the poor, education we give. Because if people had gone to good schools, this is not the type of law they will give Nigeria. So you need to see education as an investment and not as a cost. I was in Finland not long ago, and I spoke with the people who run the country's education system, and I was asking them the question: why are people doing what you are doing? In Finland, literacy level is 100%. How did the people achieve it? And they said when they got to the early 1970s, they decided to look at education differently. So they started seeing education as an investment and not as a cost. But Nigeria is looking at education as a cost and not an investment. And that's why they're asking us to pay fully for it. And so go to Finland where they fund education fully. No family pays for education in Finland, up to university, up to PhD level. As a matter of fact, if you sign up for a PhD program in Finland, they put you on a salary to say thank you to you for committing, 3 to 5 years to do research that will advance their society further. Those are people who are good quality thinkers. And go and look at their society. If you go to Finland, you and your pastor start talking to you about heaven, you will tell your pastor you have been there before. Everything works there. It's because the people there have gone to proper schools funded by government. So we can do this in Nigeria. Use the money you are going to save from oil, the money you recover by ending oil theft, and this money you are saving by ending oil subsidy to put into education, and everything will start working well for us.
Dr. Peter Ogudoro, I like the optimism in you. We can do it in Nigeria, but truthfully, it's going to be a really uphill task for the kinds of politicians we have, to begin to implement these kinds of things, to fund education free for its citizens and to look at education as an investment. But let's just push that aside and look at more ways that we can actually, help the education sector. You are good in what you do. Let us see how we can bring up policies that government should begin to look into, in terms of trying to resurrect now the fallen educational sector in the country.
Into the system. At the moment, we don't have them. And so when I say good quality thinkers into the system, I'm looking at the people in the ministries of education, the people who make the policies. We don't have very good thinkers in those kinds of places, education policy formulators. Let's get good people to help government to think carefully about these things. Now, if we think that we are worried about the fact that we are not able to fund education to a level that we end industrial action in that subsector, the smart thing to do is to work with appropriate data that we can trust, and determine if we think people should pay for education, determine who truly can afford to pay for education. It's not impossible to do this, okay? So we might find that a smart thing to do probably is to impose higher VAT, higher taxation on goods that are consumed by the elites, by the rich. Like, we can raise the tariff on importation of jeeps, big, expensive vehicles, expensive furniture, those things that the rich consume. And we can make a lot of money from that and plug it into education rather than asking ordinary poor people to be the ones to fund the education that they deserve, and which Nigeria needs to give them for them to be active participants in the process of accelerating economic development for us. So this is a possibility. We can do it. We just need to get the people who can help us to do the thinking, and we get the rich to fund the education of the poor. That's what happens in proper societies. Go to the UK that all of them want to go to. It's the rich that provides the money that takes care of those who are still struggling to come up. And then when you achieve social migration as a poor person, then you take your appropriate place in society and start through taxation to help fund the education of the poor. So it's a matter of you receive and then you give, you receive and you give. But in our own country, we want to take from the poor before we give to them. No, it's the opposite way that generally works in every society that we know. So we need careful thinkers. We also need people who have the right awareness. Most of the people in setting policies for us are in the wrong place. They are square, they are round pegs in square holes. I don't know how you
like the former Minister of Education, Malama Adamu, that said he knew nothing about education when he was appointed.
What I mean?
It's quite shameful to hear that.
Yeah, but Doctor, something else.
Just look at that situation. The guy's highest education attainment was a bachelor's degree in accountancy, which he never practiced. He never took the next step to become a chartered accountant. And he was just, a columnist. And we gave him the most important ministry in our country to run for 8 years.
For 8 years.
You don't know what it means to live the lives of, millions of Nigerians in the hands of somebody who knew nothing about education for 8 years.
I did not even put ask this morning is what is the place of the education bodies now, the unions, ASU, yes, ASUP, all of those unions in the university system, the NUC. What's their place in all of these to help just like you're saying, they are part of the thinkers we can have in this process. What's their place and what can they do differently with all of this?
Yes, they can't do much if you don't trust them and bring them to the table. They were not involved in the enunciation of this policy. They were not consulted. They just sat down in parliament, lawyers, political scientists who didn't understand anything about education, and they just came up with a policy. So trust these people, get all the stakeholders into a room, let them sit on the table and tell you what they think about what you want to do, and do this all the time, not only as it concerns this. Parents were not consulted, students were not consulted, university lecturers were not consulted, polytechnic lecturers were not consulted. The people who are likely to be happy about what is coming will be the managers of the system, like vice chancellor, rector, and provost. Do you know why? It's going to bring the kind of money they have not seen before. And we keep talking about corruption in Nigeria, so they are happy. The university leadership will support this because it will put enormous money in their hands to manage. And they will all become billionaires overnight. Because once they start charging what they like to charge, and we are not a country that has a good reputation for running good system. So there will be loopholes which these people are going to exploit to take the money poor people are going to bring to take care of their own families. We have seen JAM. JAM generates a lot of money. We have seen a former registrar of JAM who is being tried now for wasting billions of naira that body has extracted from poor people who eventually don't even pay to the university. So we take from the poor and we use it to fund the education, the exotic lifestyle of the rich. Go and look at what does a senator earn in a year. He takes away, probably up to 300 million naira from the federal treasury. One senator. Why are you not worried about the wastage that is happening at that level? And you are more concerned about the little money you are using to train your citizens so that they can get the capacity to make useful contribution to the economy. You don't want to do that anymore. But it is okay for senators to keep taking out of the public treasury millions of naira every month, which they waste on their girlfriends and useless endeavors. So we should be very careful about what we are doing.
And Dr. Peter Ogudoro, there's also allegations of a 114% increase in all of the salaries of presidents and vice presidents and some political officers and judges. It's quite painful at this moment. We understand where you're coming from, but we want to thank you so much for always finding time to join us on Rise and Shine Spectrum Television. But before we leave you, what will be like your parting word to our viewers?
Yeah, this law should be thrown out. We should pretend it never happened and use the money we are saving from oil subsidy and the money we are going to save by ending oil theft. Use those resources to fund education at government expense. That way, Nigerian children, young people will believe that their government has given to them and they will be happy to give back to them values, to become active participants and contributors, in the process of making Nigeria a great country, which is what all of us are desiring. The way to make it happen is for the government to play its role as a father, as a mother who cares and who is willing to do that which is necessary. And what is necessary at this point in time is to recognize that education is the bedrock of development, and that if we fund it and give ourselves good quality education, all our other problems will disappear. A man wrote a fantastic book titled The One Thing. The one thing that Nigeria needs to focus on at this moment is good quality education. Give it to Nigeria.
Your time with us on Sats this morning.
It's having my pleasure joining you today. Have a great day.
Enjoy the rest of your day. A great conversation,
Yes.
lots of
Education,
passion.
the bedrock of every form of development that you can think of.
And like we'd always say, it's important that we get policy enunciators that know what they are doing. Get the people in these sectors to give you the requisite advice that you need. Don't just run with policies. But like, you know, Doctor has debunked this one. To a very large extent, we see that there's a lot of holes in this particular loan law and should be done away with, like he has suggested. There's a lot of dragons here and there with this particular initiative. And we do hope that the federal government and the minders of our system and policies, you know, will make
free, fair enough for everybody to be able to afford. And while we are even talking about, you know, education loan and all of that, have we even thought about the deplorable state of our classrooms and facilities, the infrastructures that we have in universities? I think this is where the federal government should be putting more effort into revamping the educational sector. And then, yes, the rush into assenting to this bill, it calls for a lot of concerns. A big issue has been raised from what Dr. Peter Ogodoro is saying. Why not wait until you have a good thinker, you know, come on board as a Minister of Education, so that we know that we sit on a table, on a dialogue table, and think at this particular policy and bill properly before we even begin to or want to implement it. But then again, cross fingers as to September. Of course, the federal government is saying that September the bill will kick off or the law will kick off. Let's see how that goes. This is where we just have to draw the curtains. There's been a lot of time off from, of course, the of Rise and Shine Daily. My name is Janice Cobham. Don't forget to follow us on all our social media platforms, on Twitter now at Spectrum T online, of course. And do follow us individually as well. We have a lot of conversations going up. I am Janice_Cobham on Twitter. Do well to follow us.
Just follow me on social media. You know, we are near somewhere there. We are on back at Instagram and on Twitter. Definitely, let's get the conversation going. Of course, this is all we can do this time around. Let's see you again tomorrow.